Hello, my name is Ayssami, and today I'm going to be showcasing my machine learning maze solver, which I've titled Monty, the Intelligent Mouse. And I'm just going to quickly show a run through of what this does. Basically, it's just Monty, which I call him a mouse, runs through a maze and solves it at the best possible path. And he does this intelligently, so not just randomly. So the way this works is through reinforced learning. And reinforced learning works very similarly to how you would train a dog, right? You give it a treat and they learn to do a trick. And so this is the same basic algorithm. Basically for reinforced learning, we use a type called Q learning, sorry. And Q learning is an off-policy, model-free type of learning. And off-policy means that you use the same policy, which is an equation, regardless of where you are and what action you're taking. And model-free would mean that Monty doesn't know the environment. Monty doesn't know the maze, which is appropriate. And Q learning basically uses something called a Q matrix. And Q matrix tells you the value of being in a certain state and moving to a certain action, right? And you just follow that Q matrix to get your solved path. And so the Q matrix needs a reward matrix, right? You need to have a reward. So what you do is you model your maze. You model your maze such that the walls would have a reward of -200. You're not going to go there. Your path has a reward of 1, right? So you would stick to the path, and your endpoint would have a reward of 100. And currently, your maze is a 2x2 matrix, right? Rows and columns, and you want to convert that into linear coordinates. So if you have a 10x10 maze, you'd want every position, there'd be 100 positions possible, to be a list from 1 to 100. And so that's what this part does. I reshape it so that you get a reward matrix that is 100 by 100. And what this tells you is that for every state, right? Because we go state action, which would be, let's say you're in position 2, your actions are, you can move from position 2 from 1 to 100, right? We call actions the next state, basically. And so you shape your reward matrix such that if you are not directly above, below, left, or to the right of your current position, it is an impossibility to go there, right? Negative infinity. And what that means is that Monty can't jump 2 spaces to the right, can't jump 2 spaces up, 2 spaces down, 2 spaces to the left. He can only move directly adjacent, right? Up, down, left, right. And then you can start getting into the learning algorithm. So the learning algorithm works using something called Q matrix, and the Q matrix basically tracks Monty's learning. And so we're just going to run through the algorithm, and you would start at a position, right? And you would try and find, you would look at your reward matrix, and you would try and find every position that's larger than 1, right? Larger than 0, which would be a 1. So any path that's directly adjacent to Monty, you'd find all of those. There may be more than 1, right? If you had a junction, for example. And you would pick one randomly. And you would set that random new state as your current state. And then you would, again, find the highest, find all the possible moves that I can make. And then you start getting into the Q matrix. And so instead of picking one randomly, this time what you're going to do is you're going to pick the one that is associated with the largest Q value. And the Q value is mapped the same way with a state and an action. So this Q matrix is also 100 by 100. And you would pick the next action with the largest Q value, right? So if you had 3 possible actions for being in state 2, you'd pick whichever one of those 3 has the largest Q value. And so what determines the Q value? Well, the Bellman equation. And the Bellman equation is fairly simple. For every state reward pairing of the Q, that is going to be equal to the same state reward pairing in your reward map, plus a discount factor and the previous maximum Q. And so discount is arbitrary. It basically tells you how explorative Monty is, and you determine this through many runs and seeing what works best. And so what this means is that for every action Monty takes, and then you set Monty's current position to the next position that you determined. Basically what this means is that the Q matrix is going to evolve every time Monty takes a step. It's going to learn, it's going to get better, right? And you're going to keep doing this until you hit the goal. And the first time around, because your Q matrix is a 0 matrix, Monty moves randomly, completely randomly the first time around, but he's learning every step of the way. His Q matrix is evolving. And so what you end up having is you check for convergence, right? Your Q matrix is going to keep doing this over and over and over and over again. until the last Q matrix is very similar to the current Q matrix, which means it's basically evolved to convergence. And then you can just read your Q matrix, right? You start at your state, which is what I'm doing here. Start here. Start at your state. You find the highest action in your Q matrix, and you move there. And then you find the highest action, you move there. Find the highest action, you move there. And then you can plot it. And what the plot would look like is something like this, where you can see Monty's progress, right? He's iterating his Q matrix. This is basically every time he's iterated his Q matrix. And then you get to the point where the Q matrix is completely solved, and Monty can just plot his Q matrix this way. And that's basically it. Thank you for listening.